Hello, welcome to the Comic Book Club. I am your host, Jamil Payne. And with me today is our very own quarantine dancing queen, Amanda Comey. How are you doing, Amanda?
I'm doing all right. I'm still not bored of that intro, so we can
Well,
keep it.
we can, because I'm about to say this literally might be the last time I can use it. Most places are opening up. I know dancing is not opening up.
Actually, I did just get an email asking me when I thought I would start teaching again. So we'll see. No, I personally feel like dance is a little bit risky, and that it would be okay if we waited to be dancing again. But I am getting requests from people, and I'm a little bit worried that if I don't accept offers to teach places, that I might lose out on opportunities. Yeah, there isn't a way to know what's right. And I'm also worried about if I have to teach a class with half as many students, then I will make like negative $20 an hour.
Gotcha.
So it's, like I don't know if am I so desperate that I can be paid an exposure right now? And the answer is maybe.
Okay. Well, like I said, we all like navigating. Like I said, I'm having like a barbecue, and I know maybe I shouldn't,
Mm,
but at the same time, it's been like what 3.5 months,
mm.
and it's just like if like now it's kind of like get away from me, and now it's more like if we're gonna do this, we can do it, but maybe just use like some common sense rules. Maybe you know what I'm saying.
I also think it's about if if the worst thing happened and you ended up getting sick. If it's all people you know, then you can get in touch with them pretty quickly and tell them.
Right.
If I was teaching like a whole bunch of students in and out all the time, it would be really hard for me to get in touch with everybody.
Gotcha.
It
Yeah.
wouldn't be like I just send out a message to the group chat and let everybody know that they need to be careful. It would be like I would need to go through records and be emailing parents, and that seems like logistically really difficult.
Yeah. Exactly. So everybody just be out there and just make good decisions. That's that's all you can say. Just make good decisions. I mean,
Speaking of good decisions, no.
yeah, no, Amanda. Before we get to that, right? Let's go on the opposite of something. Mr. Miracle, spoiler, I think is pretty phenomenal. Let's go to the opposite of that scale, right? To Justice League, the Snyder Cut. So, for people who don't know, there's been a campaign since this movie came out. How long has it been? 3 years now? 3, 4 years now?
Yeah, I think unfortunately it's been 3 years already.
Unfortunately. Fortunately, because I ain't got that.
Fortunately.
So, there's a lot of things that, look, DC, I don't want to get into, look, DC is a mess. They sort of kind of fired Zack Snyder in the middle of the damn movie, or when most of the movie was made, they sort of kind of fired him. They
He
kind
also had a family issue.
He did have a family issue, but it feels like this was going to happen anyway. Like, you know what I'm saying? Not saying Zack Snyder was necessarily using it as an excuse. I think these two things kind of happened almost simultaneously, right? They was going to get rid of him because clearly no one liked his vision, or like the market had spoken and nobody really liked like what he was doing, and it seemed like he was about to do the same thing. So they brought on Josh Whedon. So like a certain set of fan, right, believe that this mysterious version of Justice League that's good out there. And these certain type of fan are like the worst, most toxic, most terrible version of a fan that you can imagine.
Just to elaborate on that point, in my mind, these are the fans who, if I say that I didn't like Man of Steel, or if I say that I didn't love Batman vs Superman, instead of saying, well, that's your opinion and like whatever, they tell me that I didn't like the movie because I didn't understand it.
Right, and that you're
Like,
Oh, and that
But
you're a
yeah.
woman. Don't forget.
Hmm.
So here's the thing, right? Me and Amanda look. This is the difference, right? Me and Amanda give each other shit about stuff we like and don't like all the time, right? She loved the Thor movies. I hate the Thor movies, and that's okay. We pick on it, but it doesn't necessarily. And I think most people listen to this know this, like, right? But it's not like that serious. We don't actually care, right? If you say you don't like Batman versus Superman, they will hunt you down.
Yeah.
So this toxic fandom got they wish. The W Warner Bros. I said the WB like it's the mid 90s, but Warner Brothers has announced that for their HBO streaming service, they're going to have the Snyder Cut, and they'll be out in a year's time. And I'm speechless because there's a lot of people like, see, I told you it existed. It really don't exist, right? Because like they got pumped like another 25-30 million dollars in it to make it exist, and it's gonna be like 8 hours long, so it's gonna turn into a mini series. So like we were right, it didn't exist, but they're gonna make it exist. So Amanda, how do you feel about them releasing the Snyder Cut?
um
All right, thank you. I think that side was enough. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
uh so I am interested to see what other material was made, because there were, like some of the characters were fun. Um, some of the character beats were enjoyable. A few of the fights were fun. So I am interested to see like what other ideas and what else was available. Um, I don't really trust that I'm going to enjoy it.
Right.
And I fully expect that if I'm critical of it, I'm going to be told once again it's because I'm a woman of inferior intelligence. So that's kind of my expectation, is I'm like super curious about what else is available, but I totally have been happy with it as a DVD extra instead of a miniseries.
I just because this is like the second thing, like the other one being like the Sonic movie, right? They bullied those people into postponing the Sonic movie by like 4 or 5 months to redesign Sonic. And the Sonic movie is okay, and like he does look better, but like I don't think the movie was like vastly improved by Sonic looking better. You know what I'm saying? So was it worth all of that headache? Well, it was successful, so I guess it was. But this just gonna embolden these assholes.
Um, have you ever watched the Lord of the Rings extended edition?
Amanda, I have those in 4 different formats. Yes.
Okay, just making sure. Well, because um, we just rewatched all of them. We spread it out over like a week and a half.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but that's kind of like I would have been okay with that maybe. Where with the extra footage definitely completely throws off the pacing, and sometimes you can tell that it's like not really like consistent lighting, or like something else is slightly off, and they just kind of threw in everything that they had that was like close to a finished scene.
Right.
Um, and it's like the theatrical cuts are definitely an improvement in terms of just like sit down and watch them.
Yes.
I would have been like okay with that. I can't get over the excess of like finishing it, of like throwing more money into it. I'm sorry, I'm just like that decision is so bizarre to me.
Especially for a movie that really wasn't that successful.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? It's not like it was a successful movie, and maybe you can wring like a few more butts out of this. Like it wasn't that successful.
But I mean, like, I'm definitely gonna like order pizza and get drunk and watch it with my friends.
Right.
And we're gonna like shit all over it the whole time.
Hey, it might be good. We don't know.
It might be good, but I don't think
Probably
we're gonna
not.
express any of those sentiments while we're watching it for that purpose. But I mean, like, well, I feel like they're gonna get so many people watching it just out of curiosity that they're going to be able to call it a success.
Now look, you brought up Lord of the Rings, and I gotta ask you, right? Of all the extended editions, right?
Hmm.
Of the three extended editions, which one you think integrates the extra footage the best? If you since you just watched it, if you can remember.
Um, okay, I would say that I feel like the extra footage didn't impact the pacing quite as much in the first one,
Okay.
Fellowship. But I would say that in the third movie,
Yes,
some of the extra scenes had the most interesting, like, added value.
I
Like the
agree.
whole fighting the ghost pirate things in the Under the Mountain. I was like, yeah, like let's have more Under the Mountain ghost pirates.
Right. Yes, I agree. I agree completely. I think the third movie, like the third movie, while the pacing may be weird with the extra stuff, it feels like a richer movie because of it.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like it feel like it adds like a little more texture to it. I will say like Two Towers, like there's some extra stuff, but the only extra scene that I always thought that was the only extra scene that I always felt that was necessary was the one with Faramir and Boromir and their father.
Hmm.
Like
Yes.
that's a great scene that somehow should have made it like into the regular cut in my opinion.
Um, yeah, I also think this time in particular, my husband and I were extra tired of Frodo, and we're just sort of noticing a little bit more than usual how he was kind of like a whiny trust fund kid. And his real only utility was that he could speak a couple of languages, and that was useful once or twice. But we were just so over Frodo this watch through, and we get to the Two Towers, and there's more Frodo Sam footage, and we were like, ah, like,
Well, you know what?
like,
I don't
uh,
get sick of Frodo until the third movie. Like even like in the regular cut, I just felt like, and I know he's kind of being influenced by the ring, but like the way he treats Sam, like it makes me so angry. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Cause
yeah,
like Sam is like there.
yeah.
You gonna trust this fucking goblin monster? I don't. You gonna trust this fucking crackhead over your homeboy? Like no. But yeah, man, I love those movies. You know what's sad about those movies
What?
is the fact that like there will never be any medieval movies to ever live up to that shit.
Yeah, yeah. We are squarely in a post Lord of the Rings universe now.
And if you can find the extended editions, it's if you're into film and the making of film, those special editions with the extended cut are some of the best like document like like
Yeah,
documentation
there's so much.
like just on the like how they adapted, why they adapted. Like it's just they got a whole segment on the horses. Like it goes into the nitty gritty and it's all good. Okay, I'm sorry. Complete tangent. My bad. I love Lord of the Rings. Okay, so yeah, Snyder cut. I'm gonna watch it. I don't think this is like good for the culture if they can just bully like corporations into doing what they want, which is a weird thing because we're fans, right? We're fans of stuff and we wish some stuff was changed, but not like this. Not like this.
Yeah.
So man, before okay, so we gotta talk about one more thing before we get to Mr. Miracle. In some sad news, renowned, famous, legendary comic book writer and editor Denny O'Neil has died at the age of 81. Denny O'Neil is like quietly maybe one of the top five creators in comics, right? There's like Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, maybe you could throw Ditko in there, but like in there is Denny O'Neil. If you don't know, Denny O'Neil got his start in the 60s. I believe he started with Marvel. I'm not for sure, but like he's most known for his work with Neil Adams on Batman in the late 60s and early 70s. They are the ones that brought Batman back to prominence as something you should take seriously.
Right after the Adam West version of the
Yes,
60s, right?
yes. Then like he's also a famous longtime editor. He's like last year we read Born Again. Was that last year we read Born Again? I believe, or the year before last. Anyway, when we read Born Again, his name is in there as an editor because if it wasn't for him, Frank Miller never would have got a chance to do Daredevil. And as we know, Frank Miller is like, the quintessential Daredevil writer. If you he helped on the Long Halloween because he was an editor at DC for the longest, and like a Batman editor specifically. So even after like his time was over as a writer for the most part, he still had the nose. You know what I'm saying? He still know what make a good comic, even in the modern context. And like he pioneered like social commentary in comics, like not in the broad
So
sense.
it's his fault that they're all political?
Oh yes, they are actually. Like no, straight up, it might be his fault. He wrote the legendary run of the hard traveling heroes, Green Arrow, Green Lantern, as they travel like America basically. Green Lantern is a little more conservative. Green Arrow is the liberal one, and they just had these like moral stories about right and wrong and like all this political stuff. So like he touched on race a lot. He touched on everything of the time that most people were scared to touch, and in a blatant way, not in some metaphor. He would just touch on it. Like there's this one famous scene of like an old black man talking to Green Lantern and say, "Hey man, you help out people with green skin, purple skin, but you don't help out nobody with black skin. Do you have an answer for that?" And Green Lantern's like, "Nah, I really don't." And like, if somebody wrote that now, could you imagine what they'll say?
Yeah, you're just pandering to the libtards who want to make everybody women now in the characters. Yeah, no, you're right.
But Cummings ain't never been political before. But everybody loves Denny O'Neil, but Cummings ain't never been political. So that goes to show you, man, that like all these talking points are bullshit. Cause like Denny O'Neil was a true creative trailblazer in a lot of ways. And like the comics world is poor for not having him in it. Like, man, you got anything to say about Denny O'Neil? Do you know anything about Denny?
His name, I was familiar with it. Like I recognized the name when I saw the news, but I wasn't quite sure why. And then as soon as I looked into it, I was like, oh wow. And my takeaway from that was just, I think it's a shame that even comic book fans that it's hard for us to learn more about how the industry is run and all of the people who work together to make what we love.
Right.
And that the roles of like the editors and the designers, that we don't always know those stories. Another editor that I think about as being like surprisingly influential is Louise Simonson.
Yes.
But I've seen at least one long form article about like what her role was in the death of Superman. So I would love to see a little bit more of that information shared in the comics book community. And I know that there's a few sites that indulge in that, like Comics Beat does that a little bit more. But I mean, also we waste half of our attention fighting with Zack Snyder fans. There's only so many hours in the day for us to actually appreciate the art form. So,
one of my favorite things to do is like listen to like comic book writers and comic book artists when they do interviews, because they will constantly bring up these names, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I had a fight with Denny about this. Like, what? Like, well, huh? And like, it's like the stuff you don't hear, but like you realize like they mention these people so much. Louise Simonson, Denny O'Neil, you know what I'm saying? Oh, shit, Jim Shooter. Like, you like, oh, they had like a way bigger impact than like people like, no, you know what I'm saying? But they should. Because, like, even in Hollywood, right? Producers get a lot of credit. Like, everybody know who Jerry Bruckheimer is, or Joe Silver, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So it's weird to me that, like, that doesn't happen with like comic books.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, he will be missed, and like, I think like his influence can definitely be felt over like the um the comic book industry, especially with Batman and Daredevil. But a lot of things. But yeah. Okay, Amanda. Today we are talking Mr. Miracle, written by Tom King and drawn by Mitch Gerads. Mr. Miracle, it is a comic book that ran from September of 2017 to November 2018. It won several Eisner Awards. Of course it did, because it's Tom King. It won Best Limited Series and Best Penciler for Mitch Gerads.
And since we were just talking about giving out a little bit more credit, Clayton Cowles did the lettering. I'm also seeing that there is a front page credit to Jack Kirby for creating Mr. Miracle, and that Jamie S. Rich was the editor. And I know him from some stuff that he wrote maybe like 5 to 10 years ago. I know that he'd gotten promoted to be an editor at what was Vertigo-ish. And then there was no Vertigo, so he would be doing DC stuff now.
All right. And the synopsis reads: Scott Free is the greatest escape artist to ever live. So great that he escaped Granny Goodness' gruesome orphanage and the dangers of apocalypse to travel across the galaxy to set up a new life on Earth with his wife, the former female Fury known as Big Barter. So, Amanda, this award-winning series, Mr. Miracle, written by Tom King, drawn by Mitch Gerads, what do you think of it?
Nah, it was just okay.
Just okay? Okay, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
No, it was so good. I was like 3 pages in, and I was already getting ready to compare it to Sandman.
Whoa, what?
I know, right?
I, I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say. Continue.
Well, so what really got me was the presenting a comic book story as sort of a new mythology.
Right.
Like, I wasn't really familiar with this character before. I didn't really know like the backstory.
Mm-hmm.
And laying out the backstory that way and making it sort of reflective of like how Greek myths work,
Right.
making it sort of like iconic and big and setting it up so that it's a tragedy. I was just like, this is how you make a big story. And then also within the first few pages, they were already playing around with some visual stuff that you can really only do in a comic book.
Right.
So it hit all my points. It was a you know, new god epic new mythology type story that works really, really well in this format by enhancing a character that exists already. It wasn't even it somehow still fits as a superhero story.
So it's funny you
And all of that was just the first few pages.
Yeah, right. So it's funny you brought up the bitness of this story. To me, what makes this story so special is the smallness of it. Like,
Yeah, at the same time.
yeah, despite like some of his big grandiose images, this really a job of just about a wife and a husband just trying to make it, and they just got a grueling job almost. Almost like the Vision, where he also wrote, like, it's like almost like this domesticated comedy in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Yeah,
Very, very humanizing.
it is very humanizing, and like, just to compare Marvel to DC, right? It's that thing where like Vision was like, excellent, right, and like completely unexpected because they let Marvel take risk with Vision, right? But there's still that bit of like, pushback from Marvel in a lot of ways because they still got to use Vision. They want to use his daughter. She I think she goes off and go to the champions and all that. And like, sorry, excuse me. And like that's really weird considering the story she just came from, right? So like it seems like towards the end of that story, Tom King still had to serve the master the masters at Marvel as far as continuity goes. And maybe like the ending is not as strong as it should have been because they put like this weird limit. They put these slight but major limitations on his story. DC doesn't do that at all.
Well, I agree. One of the things that was really exciting about reading the Vision story that he did for Marvel was the sort of feeling that it was like just like a meditation on the Marvel universe. Oh, I want to compare it. I will not let us get sidetracked. It's like the What If movie episodes of Dragon Ball Z.
Yes.
Where it doesn't really fit into continuity, but it's using circumstances that existed in continuity and then saying like, what if? And so what was fun was seeing a story like that with a Marvel character that doesn't get, a lot of solo exposure. But then you get to the end and it not only returns to status quo, but like keeps Vivian so she can be a young Avenger or a champion or whatever. It's like, that's weird.
Right.
Like that makes it not a side story exploration meditation. That means that like this all happened in the main universe. I don't know. It's a little bit weird. I feel like there should be room for experimentation on the side.
So, Amanda, what do you even want to start? Should we start at the beginning? The fact that like he tries to kill himself.
Yes.
You know what? I take that back. Yes, we mentioned that, but I think we should start with the end. Because, if you're listening to this, you should have read it because we're spoiling everything. So,
yes.
We like to jump all over the place. So, we know he tries to kill himself, right? So, man, I'm going to ask you just at the beginning, what is your interpretation of that ending?
Of the ending?
Yes, what do you think happens? What do you think is going on in the end, at the end of that book?
So, my interpretation is that everything we had seen was sort of a mental escape from death.
Right.
And it was sort of an extended version of like the life flashing before your eyes moment. And there's this great comparison where he's told by other characters, which I imagine are just parts of himself, saying like, oh, you've been sent to hell and this fantasy is your escape from hell. And then he's also told, oh, you've been sent to heaven and like the stress and the guilt and the grief that you've imagined for yourself is your escape from heaven. And just it allows the entire story that you see to be sort of like a meditation on like the traps you set for yourself and the way that you escape from your circumstances. So yeah, my interpretation of the end is that like, yeah, he's dead and that this is all just like psychological.
Right.
Did you come down in a similar place?
Yes and no. I feel like yes, he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
But since he is a god, that everything we see is actually happening. Like everything we see is actually happening, but it's some weird purgatory.
Okay, yeah, I like that. That if you're a god, that the things that you imagine become entire worlds.
Yeah, like it's all that. It's all real. You know what I'm saying? But it's some type of purgatory that Metreon was trying to pull him out of, that he decides to stay in.
Yes.
Now, of course, there's an extra level of metaphor on top of that. But I'm just talking about just like plain text, like how I see it is just like this is some type of purgatory, and he can escape it, but he choose not to. He choose to be like torn between these two worlds. Now, what do I think that means as far as what Tom King is trying to say? What I think what that means is this is like if his thoughts on PTSD and like depression in general and stuff like that, right? Is that when you have depression or PTSD, you can never really get away from it, right? But you can learn to live with it. And some days going to be good, and some days going to be bad, but you keep on living because it is worth more being alive than it is dead. And for him, he found his happy place. He found that, he found his loving wife, he has 2 children, right? So he's happy with that. On the other hand, there's also this other part where he's stuck in this ever ending battle with apocalypse, but he's
Yes.
okay with that as long as he's have his wife and kids. So to me, it just represents like, yeah, it's like, you know what I'm saying. You're never gonna be 100% okay, but you'll be okay enough to keep on living. Do that make any sense? Do that like do that?
No, that feels like what I read.
Yeah, so that's my interpretation that it all happened again. First level, it all happened. He was in purgatory, and like he decided to stay in purgatory. And the second level is this is like this is whole story is an entire metaphor with depression. Okay, I think we're done, Amanda.
Oh, I was gonna say I would love to talk about like the specific characters, maybe.
Oh yeah, but I'm not gonna start with Mr. Miracle. No, no, no. I'm gonna start with Barter because I loved it.
I know you. I was gonna say you have a type.
I have a type. I don't. It's not even. It's not even that. It's just like.
Okay, did she give you Promethea vibes?
A little bit, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So maybe I do have a type, but like,
She also gave me like vague Wonder Woman, like Xena vibes, just like
of course, yeah.
giant warrior princess.
I mean, but here's the thing: she's way bigger than either of
Yes.
Xena or Wonder Woman, and like, I love the way they draw her, cause sometimes she's drawn as unfeminine, which is fine. Like sometimes she has like giant fucking arms, not just giant fucking arms for a woman, but just big ass arms. Period. Right? Like she'll snap a motherfucker in half. And she
Um,
will.
yeah. I also love that they drew her gaining weight when she was pregnant.
They did. They
Like
did.
she had like a rounder face with like extra chins while she's giving birth, and I was like, yes, thank you for like not trying to draw her sexy all the time, just drawing her realistically and also abstractly at the same time, because of course.
Yes. So and like it's that thing about their relationship where it's like I feel like a lesser writer would like I've seen this story with Barter and like Mr. Miracle before. Well, not this particular story, but like I've seen stories with them and like how most people play it is ah ha ha, she the one that wears the pants in the family, ha ha ha, and he's more the woman. And it's not played like that at all. They are in a complete partnership 50-50. There's none of this weird like sexual politics that they try to play with them because she's so much bigger than him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean there is like the one sex scene, but
Which one? Which one? There's several. You gotta. You,
the one where she ties him up.
shit, but you ain't gotta be
Yeah,
strong
no,
with
no, you're right.
it.
Right, that's not like a weird thing. I'm just saying, like, they didn't have any of that. They didn't have any of the sexual drama you might anticipate given their size differences
Right.
transcend into their actual relationship.
Right, right, exactly. But yes, besides that one, and even then, you don't have to write that. It can just be some kinky shit they into,
Hmm.
because he can't escape. Question
Yeah.
is, does he want to escape? Is
Yeah.
I know what. Do you want to say anything about Barter? I'm sorry, I'm taking over the conversation. Go ahead, man. What do you want to say about Barter?
I just loved that she was such a real character. Like I love that she had something of a common background with Scott. Um, I like the little visits from like her friends, her monster demon fury friends. I liked the
Her
little story about
technically
her
they her
sisters.
sisters. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the little story about how like one of the extra special errands she got to run was delivering like the god blood wine or something. I liked that she felt a full realized character and not just like the wife.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, I would almost like it almost makes me want to read like a one shot solo Barda story
Right.
where she goes to the grocery store and has to maintain her rage the entire time while people are like walking slowly in front of her and she has to like get the right cereal.
I
I feel like I could relate to that.
right, right, right. So you don't have the power to like bring the whole place down like she does.
Or
I
maybe a one shot where she's shopping online to try to find clothing that fits her.
Oh, that would be
Like
great.
she's like, how do I like where am I gonna find panties that fit? This is ridiculous. I'm gonna have to order from the company that makes sails for sailboats. I don't know.
Oh man, look, Ashley, she about 6'9", so she actually is kind of that big. I'm about to say she's not. My favorite scene with her is when they're on the swing, and she was talking about just how much of the emotional weight she has to pull because sometimes Scott just ain't there,
Yeah.
and how unfair that is. That she has to be the strong one to rock. Like she's just not in despair sometimes, but she can't be in despair because she got this. She got to deal with all the Scott bullshit and hang-ups, and now you talking about giving away my baby. Like, yeah, so like I like that. I like because like that's real, right? Like women are called upon to be the emotional rock of the family. You know what I'm saying? Like women are called upon to like carry the emotional weight of a relationship. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like it's part of our society. It's not necessarily right, but that is true. And the fact that she vocalized that, I think, is very important.
And not just I mean, definitely mostly women. Um, but also just anyone in a caregiver role.
Right.
Because when you are depressed enough to commit suicide, you are essentially your depression is a disability.
Yeah.
And so someone who is living with you is at some level a caregiver and needs to like take care of themselves that way. Um, I think it's impressive that if we accept the reading that most of this is coming from Scott himself, that he would imagine her to have that nuance and complexity and that he would imagine her sitting him down and having that conversation.
Which means so if we take that reading, right, which means he thinks very highly of her even in death.
Yeah.
Right.
Like he's not fantasizing her into the perfect version that enables him to do whatever he wants. And I mean maybe that's a difference between a human and a god. Is that he imagines her almost she has agency. She has thoughts that are different from his.
Right. So who else would you like? I mean, there's a lot of people to talk about. Who's next person we're talking about?
I wanted to talk about Funky briefly.
You mean Stan Lee?
Yes. And how cute it was that we got essentially Stan Lee as a character in a DC story.
Right. Do you
Um,
do you know the story behind Funky Flash Man?
I don't.
So this was Jack. He's a Jack Kirby invention, of course, and this was his dig at Stan Lee once he went to DC.
Mm,
Funky Flash Man was like how he is, right? Like a loud huckster who didn't necessarily do the work, but got all the credit and was like a big loudmouth and a self promoter.
yeah.
So that's the history of Funky Flash Man.
Um, I mean, I was just amused that it was allowed, you know?
Yeah. Well, like again, there's always been that character. Like
Yeah.
for like 50 for almost 50 years, that's that character. But yeah, and like if you didn't know it was Stan when he says Excelsior,
Hmm.
that pretty much seals it, right? Like oh, this is definitely Stan Lee.
Yeah.
So did you like Funky Flash Man?
Um, I did. Um, Despite him being sort of a caricature, I just wanted to, there's one other point where it also really drove home the idea that that he was like making fun of Marvel.
I already know. Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, so it starts so first of all, they're having a Batman themed first birthday party,
Right.
and Funky's helping set up, and he says that Jacob, their son, had helped him come up with a story, and he says, "Oh, your baby provides all the imaginations, I do the words."
Yes, yes,
And then the next page is a children's drawing story about the golden retriever, who
yes,
is the herald of the Star Eater.
yes, yes,
And the day is saved because Jacob befriends the puppy and then the puppy helps Batman stop the Star Eater.
yes.
And I'm just like, is this a Marvel Galactus story
It is.
in the middle of our Mr. Miracle purgatory?
Story, yes. And like again, like Stan Lee always said, yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, he got all the imagination. I just give the words. I just give the words. You know what I'm saying? Like, but like, yeah, he provides all the imagination, which is kind of how like Jack and Stan worked. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
yeah, that was adorable. And like and it's that thing where it's not like necessarily a dig, like as in a bad dig, but it's more of a playful dig. Then like you know what I'm saying? It's more of a like dig of like, but like still respectful. It's not like, hey, Stan Lee is some crook.
Mm-hmm.
Cause like Funky is great in this story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So okay, Funky Flash Man. Okay, so anybody else you wanna bring up? Cause it's funny because like we could bring up each character, and like it brings up an aspect of this story. But go ahead. I'm sorry. What is there?
I think the only other character I really wanted to get some of your feedback about was Orion.
Orion? Okay, okay. I wasn't expecting. Okay, yeah.
Well, because I don't have quite as much experience with these characters, and I was wondering if this was an unusual version of Orion.
It's weird. Orion lately has been like, cause we always talk about the Brian Azzarello run of like Wonder Woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And while Orion is a good guy in there, he's kind of a dick, and
Uh-huh.
it's kind of funny. This version of Orion is also kind of a dick. What I'm starting to believe is every story I've ever read with Orion, he's kind of a dick. Like he's always noble in a lot of
Yeah.
stories, but like I think like I don't know, like post 20th century, I think people starting to realize like Orion, if he was real, would probably be like an asshole.
I mean, I think that if you look at the mythological like underpinnings that this story was given, like what you have is, you know, Scott was the son of the High Father, raised in Apocalypse. So the evil of Apocalypse couldn't destroy the good that was inherent in him.
Right.
So it kind of makes sense that if you take the son of Darkseid and raise him in paradise, you wouldn't quite be able to get rid of all of the evil in him.
I like that. You know what? I ain't never think about it like that. That's a
Like it
good.
just because it's making sort of an argument about nature versus nurture, and I think it's a stronger argument if you have like it would be a Disney movie if you could have it both ways. If a good person raised under evil circumstances stayed good, but a bad person raised under good circumstances also became good.
Right.
But saying that a bad person raised under good circumstances, the best they can hope for is noble asshole. Like that seems about right.
Right.
And I was also thinking, I mean, like, I wasn't sure if that's how Orion normally is, but I also thought that in this story, it kind of makes sense for him to see, like, another version of himself. Like, maybe if he had grown up privileged and living, like, a more luxurious life, like, maybe he would have been a dick.
Right.
Maybe he would have been Orion. Maybe he would have been quick to anger and go to war with Apocalypse. Like, maybe he was made better by his childhood trauma.
You know what? There's arguments for that. Believe it or not, like there's actually like if you look at current world events, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we're going with the thing of like privilege breeds assholishness and like weakness, right? And adversity makes you strong and give you some type of honor, right? If you look at the real world right about now, that's kind of how it seems with like white supremacy or just like white people being in charge. No offense, Amanda, I know you're white. But like, you know what I'm saying? As in like you see like, you know, the woman calling the cops, you know,
Yeah.
on the dude in Central Park. You know what I'm saying? That woman was probably grew up privileged and rich. You know what I'm saying? And you think somebody like that would have like noble aspirations, but all it did was make her weak and angry. You know what I'm saying? And pretty much a bad person. To the point where she wanted that black man hurt so bad that she started strangling the fucking dog, right? Well, you know, you see someone, I don't know, like Martin Luther King or like Malcolm X, right? Malcolm X was a pimp. He grew up poor, you know what I'm saying? Beat women, then he turned his life around, right? So if you go off that, then like yeah, like there's actually arguments you could be made that adversity can make you stronger, can make you a stronger person in a good way, because you see the ills and you don't want that perpetuated against no one. Sorry, man. Go ahead. Just I want to touch on that.
No, I think that was a really great that was elaborating exactly what I was trying to get across, is that like he's trying to like process and get beyond this trauma he had, and yet he's being reminded consistently that he couldn't be the good person he is now without it. So what
Right.
does it mean for him to like get rid of it or let it
Right.
go?
And just to touch on Orion again, Orion has always been sort of hot headed, but like he's always been like seen as noble also. You know what I'm saying? So like it's not far off. It's just like it's that same personality, just slightly pushed to a like push a little bit left. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and maybe also the way that the that his brother would see him and not really like completely objective.
Right, right. And actually, there's a character I want to talk about. I want to talk about Granny Goodness.
Yeah.
First of all, if they made a New Guys movie, who would you want to play Granny Goodness?
Ooh. Um.
Because I have an answer and it's a novel one, but I want to see who you would say.
Okay. So the way that my mind is thinking, I'm thinking of just sort of like a quiet cruelty.
Right.
And we were just watching Westworld, so the character that I'm thinking of is Tandy Nguyen.
Ah.
Just sort of like a very quiet, like, I know what's best for you sort of attitude. And I've seen her do that recently, away from it right now. Okay, so who was your casting pick for Granny Goodness?
John Goodman.
Hey.
So like if you remember, Granny Goodness was in like the Bruce Tim Paul Dini universe of cartoons, right? Of like
Yes.
Batman the animated series, Superman, and then Justice League, right? Granny Goodness was played by Ed Asner.
Mm.
Now, I went on the line of thinking like, well, maybe they should keep a man playing Granny Goodness, and like I think the best person to like to do that, who could pull that off, in my opinion, is John Goodman.
He
Now,
absolutely could.
now, if we talking about women, I'm gonna say Kathy Bates.
Ah, uh-huh.
Kathy Bates, like if you're gonna go with a female or actual woman, Kathy Bates would be my pick of of who could do it. John Goodman or Kathy Bates. That's a hell of a that's a
Or
Vin.
maybe Ellen Burstyn.
Which one? Who's Ellen Burstyn?
She was she was in the Wicker Man remake as Lord Summersisle, and she was also the mom in Requiem for a Dream.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay. Another choice. I think is Ann Dow. She was in the Leftovers.
All right, so we're just like all of the Great Dames, any of them.
Yeah. 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 Like that older middle aged white woman.
Well, because I mean, part of what is intimidating about the character is that like she could kick your ass.
Right.
So I mean, it's like, you know, there is extra weight, but a lot of it is like what I would have called beer strength in college,
Yeah.
where it's like rage and like food stored on your body and accessible for like picking up large things or winning fights.
And just to touch on Kathy Bates, Kathy Bates pretty much played Granny Goodness in Misery. Like if I had to that's why I said her because like Kathy Bates in Misery is very much that character. Well, one minute she's saying like all these sweet platitudes, the next minute she's breaking your fucking ankles with a fucking croquet mallet.
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, you know what? I think that I feel like if this was a movie, I feel like so many actors and actresses would like be interested in that role specifically.
That's the Oscar winning role, right? That's the role.
Uh-huh.
That's the flashy role. That's the role people want. That's the Joker role right there. That's Heath Ledger in the Joker role. That's the role people want.
Yeah.
But okay, sorry. Yes, Granny Goodness, right? Granny Goodness is interesting in this story because you get both sides of her, and this also speaks of that other thing of like people you love causing you trauma,
Yes.
right? And you having to deal with still loving them, but also holding them accountable for that trauma. Even like as the way you talk about it, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's clear, like Barta and Scott, especially Scott, has like an affection for Granny, right? They don't completely hate her. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And that's kind of hard for Barter to accept, but it's true, right? Because even though she tortured them and all the pain that she gave them, she also gave them like good things too. And as a child, that's a hard thing to process as a child and as an adult. This person who can absolutely be like, your parent and all that can also be this monster.
Hmm.
It's like growing up with like an alcoholic parent, you know what I'm saying? Or like people who have parents that they're not close with or they're close with, but they also acknowledge like all the shit that they've been through with this person.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's just that turned up like a million percent.
right. Because even when they talk about the torture they went through, it's never like it's never like bad, right? It's always almost matter of factly, right? Like when she said, like Barley said, yeah, she held me under the fire pits till it went down my gullet. But she says it like it was bad, but she also says it matter of factly, like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's really weird.
Yeah.
Like you
And
know,
then and it's also part of it is when that happens to you as a child, as we were saying a little earlier, it becomes part of your identity. And then how can you hate her without hating yourself?
right?
But then
Exactly.
how do you also stop yourself from doing that to your own
You
family?
exactly. And like they're interspersed like the monstrous nature with grand goodness with all these things. I think one of my favorite lines in here is Bit Barter says, "I'm too tall," and Granny tells her, "Oh dear, we're all too something."
Mm-hmm.
And that right there was deep, because that's a very motherly thing to like say. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And it's very good advice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But this woman absolutely like abused you when you was little, right? But that's one of those moments, right? And like Scott talks about the one time Granny tortured him, but then she took him down and like read him a bedtime story and got him some food and said how much she loved him or some shit like that. And it's just like, yeah, that's tough, man. That's hard. That's really hard to process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Am I talking too much? I'm sorry. I do this.
No, it's just this is I mean just like Vision, this book has so much in it.
Right. 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 You see, I learned my
You're not talking too much. You're addressing like we're addressing like a third of what actually happened in the book.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, Granny Goodness to me is like a very interesting character like that, and I think I love her even though she's a terrible monster. I love that scene where they went to go talk to her, and they had one of their allies like as some type of slave, and it's all matter of fact. Like yeah, she's like yeah, I'm just starving them, but sometimes I let him watch me eat. So
Yeah.
how you guys doing? Like like what? Like what the hell is going on? Like such a nightmare world. So yeah, I guess we should finally talk about Mr. Miracle himself, right? Scott
Yes.
Free. Um Again, what little I know about the new guys is that usually they don't ever reconcile with the fact that Scott, as he called it in his book, is granny raised. That's my other favorite line, by the way. But like in the books, they never talk about that. They never really, as far as I know, reconcile with the fact that he went through this terrible thing. Like in the comic books, and in like excuse me adaptations I don't see, he's always more of like a fun adventurer type, right?
Yeah.
Never really dealing with the fact that he was tortured like that.
The only so it's funny because I think I've seen his character show up a few times, but the reference that I thought of immediately was because we just read it in Kingdom Come.
Okay.
Scott Free
Right.
was the guy who
Yeah,
they had
that's
him
right.
design the containment facility for all of the bad guys. And so now appreciating that he was granny raised, it kind of gives me another sense of like what that containment facility might have been like.
And like that's like the second time, but that's such a great line because it carries so much weight when he tells
Hmm.
Killerback, I'm not some new Genesis whelp, I am granny raised, and like what that means instantly without explaining anything else,
Yeah.
right? Like what that means, basically saying I can get gangster right now if I need to. Don't mistake my smile for the fact that I won't murder all of you.
Yeah.
Like it was great. It was yeah, that line was great. That's and again, it's that thing, right? It's that thing of where like they quote unquote hate Granny, right? But he invokes her name for how strong he is, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you know what I'm saying? Like for all that talk, when time to get serious, that's the name he invokes. And
Yes.
and like we're not even getting to the fact that, like, you know what I'm saying, like, you know, the abuser, which is Granny, completely acts like, you know, she just didn't torture these two, and like everything is normal, and they don't hate her. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, my children are back. Oh, how wonderful it is to see you. Like, she hasn't been trying to kill them for like decades at this point.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, scot free. You know, Scott just trying to make it, man. You know what I'm saying? He's dealing with a lot. I think the best part that sums it up is when he cries and curl up in the shower. I think that best describes Scott Free in this whole book. That's my synopsis of him crawling up in a ball in the shower, right? Like that's.
Yeah.
You got anything to say about Scott? Like,
I mean, I think that he is I think that he's, as sort of like the point of view character, is more developed by how you see him interact with the other characters, and is um maybe maybe a little bit more of an everyman than he would be in like a group book where he's like a supporting character. I will say that I kind of loved him wearing, like, I loved all of his t-shirts.
oh, they're great. Yeah.
Like, and just the idea that like he has a Flash t-shirt, he has a Green Lantern t-shirt. They're just in rotation.
My
Totally
favorite.
normal.
My favorite is the Adam Strange one. That's a deep cut, by the way. But also that's actually Tom King and Mitch Gerads' next book. So that was a hint about what was coming. So yeah. But yeah. His t-shirts are great. I love the fact that they talk about Batman. What was it? Batman murdered children? Is that what they were saying?
Yeah, Batman kills kids.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny, but I know it's supposed to be a joke that's really not that far off. But
No, I was definitely like, I was like, yep, you're right. You definitely don't want your kid running away to be a Robin.
yeah, that's never a good job, right? Either you're beaten by a clown or you blinked out of existence or whatever the hell else happened to Robins. Plus, you know, Batman is just like, you know, mentally abusive. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what else to bring up. We talked about the end. We talked about him killing himself. We talked about all. I guess we should talk about Darkseid a little bit, maybe.
I was gonna say if we need to pick one more topic to discuss, I feel like it would be really good to talk a little bit about the art.
I love it because it's very abstract in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as clean as a lot of like, you know, when you read like we read Division, right? I forgot who the artist was on that, and I feel ashamed for that. But like that art is very clean and very comic booky, right? Like it's subject matter, right?
Yeah.
Mitch Gerads has like it's almost like a sketch. You know what I'm saying? It's almost not like it's almost like a it's almost like a sketch instead of like a full drawing. And I know it's a
I
full drawing, but it has that quality. You get what I'm saying?
I think it's because he does the colors and the line work,
Hmm.
so that maybe since he can think about doing them sort of at the same time, it doesn't have quite the same finish that we're used to.
But I don't mean this in a bad way either. I don't even
No,
mean
no, it definitely adds like, and the style changes frequently too.
right. And there's definitely a dreamlike quality to it all,
Hmm.
which I think is great. I think his facial expressions, especially on Barter, are really good.
I will say, I don't know if you noticed this. They were almost exclusively 9 panel pages.
Yes. Yes,
I
I
wasn't
did.
sure if you noticed that almost every page, like if you are in Comixology and you go to like the page by page view,
Hmm.
it is almost every single page is 9 panels. Almost every single page is one color, and there's a lot of repetition. This and like variations on the same theme in exactly the way that a dream would work.
Mm.
Um,
It reminds me of a little bit, and I guess this is kind of like a preview. No, Watchmen is kind of drawn like that. Like Watchmen is drawn like that.
mhm.
Is drawn the same way. So there's something about that type of thing
Yeah.
that I don't know that draws you in, like that type of format.
I mean, I've definitely seen on Twitter comic book artists get excited about 9-panel layouts. But the art is in the details is very abstract, and like one page may be more sketchy, another page maybe not. Some of the pages have like almost like television static layered on top of different parts of the image.
Right.
But to have still like sort of the creative constraint of like the structure of the pages is going to be pretty much the same. We're doing color as mood, like consistent palettes on the whole page. Like I think that was kind of I think that kind of like sinks in behind the scenes and helps it hold the story together without you really noticing.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm even noticing whether the gutters are white or black seems to also kind of depict like mood.
Mm-hmm.
Just a lot of behind the scenes work went into making this feel natural to read.
Amanda, look, I hate to say this, like when a movie is Oscar bait, we tend not to like it, but like Tom King books are totally Eisner bait, and we completely fall for it every damn time. Like, oh, this is important. Like, it feels important, and we fall for it every time. We know what he's going to do to us, and yet we still fall for it. Yeah. So, Amanda, I think that no. Let's talk about Darkseid.
Okay.
Darkseid is not in this book. His presence is felt.
He is. Darkseid is.
Darkseid is, yeah, right. But he's maybe in what 4 pages total, maybe.
Yeah.
So, what do you think of Darkseid for what little he is in here? Does he even talk?
Maybe at the very end. At the very, very end. I mean, I think that having his presence be so pervasive, like, I think it really speaks to when you're upset, you give a lot of mental space to whatever is bothering you.
Right.
And like, if it's a person that's bothering you, like, they get to live in your head, and like, you play out imaginary fights with them, and there's a version of them living in your head. And I think that having this pervasive dread of like the dark side that lives in his head was very realistic, I feel like. I mean, like, and now that you've brought up that he wasn't actually in the story at all, I'm like, was he even, like, is he even that scary? Or is Scott, like, scared of him just because of his trauma?
Right.
No, I mean, like, anyone, that's real terror. Like, Darkseid is scarier for being able to get inside your head like that, as opposed to, like, whether he could blow you up.
Right, and like they play with that as in like, well, he has the anti-life equation. So is he in my head right now? Is he affecting me? Is he doing doing something to me that, you know what I'm saying, that I don't want to do, which just goes to what you're saying. But yeah, I thought that, so I thought it was cool how they kill him. It was almost like an action movie. They even discussed, like, I thought you was going to say, the veggie tray. Love the veggie tray.
The veggie tray is the best character.
MVP. It is. And I love that when he has the choice, like it's like DC, it's like the DC rebirth, and like, you know what? I stay in purgatory too. I want to have nothing to do with that hot mess. I don't want to deal with that hot mess either. Like Like, you know what I'm saying? I was like, I don't like, yeah, like constant rebirth and all that adventure. And I stay here with my wife and kids. My life is exciting enough as it is. So yeah, I think that's it, Amanda. I think we covered everything about this book. Would you recommend it? Is the question.
Absolutely. I'm actually I'm feeling like I may buy a physical copy of it.
Oh wow, well that's saying something. I feel like this is one of them books up there with Watchmen, as in you just try to shove in people's faces.
Yep.
Like yo, I know you don't like comic books, yo, but you gonna like this. Read it. I'm telling you, you're gonna like it. You become that person, and we've all
Yes.
been that person. You
Yes,
know.
this is a comic book that makes you that person.
Yes, it is. It is. It is. So Amanda, okay. Well, I definitely recommend it. I think that goes without saying. We just good stuff. Is there anything you don't like about the book? Is there any criticisms that you could give about the book?
Um, I think the closest criticism I could give would be sort of what you brought up, is that this is award bait, and that it is easy to manipulate people into caring about your story by making it be tragic. And that if he was a really powerful writer, he could also make you feel as strongly about something good.
Well, have you read Batman?
I haven't read his Batman, but uh, that would be my only criticism. Is I'm like, okay, like this was really good. It was really well done. Now, can you make me like happy?
Well, from the preview of his album Strange, I don't think that's happening anytime soon. With as far as these prestige books that he do, but his Batman is pure joy most of the time. So I'm going to say that. Like
Okay.
he made Kite Man popular. So that just lets you know how
Okay.
what his Batman run is about. So Amanda, with that we are done. If people want to talk to us about their past childhood trauma committed by their grandmother, what can they reach us?
We are on Twitter.
Uh
Um, also which is the location of all current trauma as well. So we're on Twitter
huh.
as Comic Book Club 52.
I'm sorry.
Uh,
Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, we're on Twitter as Comic Book Club 52. You can send us an email, comicbookclub52@gmail. And we're on Facebook. And like, seriously, we don't like spam people. We pretty much use those accounts just to share specifically information about the podcast. So
Yes.
it's not like you don't follow us and get like the weekly, repost of some other thing just so that we pop up on your feed again. It's not like we're not like that.
No, we're not. Now, Amanda,
Yeah.
July is approaching.
Uh-huh.
Can you tell everybody our plans for July?
Well, yeah. So, we've been doing like all of these. I mean, we've been doing like a lot of superhero stuff, some well-known DC stuff. Figured it was time to do something maybe like, like an unknown indie feel.
Uh huh.
So I think we were gonna do something. It's hard for me to remember the name because like I don't think I've really ever heard of it before. Was it Clock People?
No, it was not. It was Watch People.
Watch Men?
Watch. That doesn't sound right.
That sounds
No.
stupid. That can't
That
be it.
does no that. Yes. So we are having a Watchman month. Watchmen. I said Watchman. Watchmen month. Right, Amanda? Is that what we're doing?
What about the Watch Women?
I mean,
I'm sorry. I just wanted to I wanted to be contrary for a moment. Yeah, we're doing Watchmen stuff all month.
So can you tell everybody what we're doing?
We're going roughly in chronological order, so we are going to read the original graphic novel.
Yeah.
The original graphic novel, and then we are going to watch the Snyder movie.
The director's cut of the movie.
Okay, the director's cut. Then we are
The
going to
Snyder's
read
cut.
the Doomsday Clock sort of follow-up series.
Right.
And then we are going to take a look at the HBO TV series from last year.
Man, Amanda, I'm telling you now, that show was ahead of its time by 9 fucking months, and you'll understand once you watch it. So that's our schedule. It's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot of work on our end because there's a lot of like Watchmen is already like 300 pages long and with a lot of damn words. You know what I'm saying? Think like the thickest volume of Sandman, right? That's kind of what we're dealing with a little bit here, as far as volume of reading, especially just for Watchmen. Like the director's cut of that movie is 3 hours long. Doomsday's Clock is also 12 issues, and then we're gonna finish off with like a 13 episode show. So
well, fortunately, we don't have anywhere else to go.
No, we do not. And like I've heard complaints from people I know, like, hey, this is people talk about Watchmen all the time. Why are you guys doing it? You guys should do something different. You know what? I agree with that. But guess what? You know what people like to hear about? Shit they know about, and it's Watchmen. And that's big, and we're going to do it. But beyond that, right, I feel like maybe we could bring something like maybe slightly different, especially since one of us never really read it or holds any reverence for it, like a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I think it'll be a little different. And even if it's not, I think it's a good conversation. I think if you have a comic book podcast, and we're going on what? We're creeping up on year 3, right, Amanda?
Yep.
I think it makes sense that we do this. I think if you have, you have to do Watchmen, right? At least.
Yeah. Definitely.
If you're going to be a comic book podcast, I feel like you have to do Watchmen. Unless you're going to be like one of those like esoteric things that like only do indie comics. But who the fuck wants to listen to that? And I joke. But yeah, so roughly the schedule goes, we will have an episode released roughly on the 6th, the 13th, the 20th, and the 27th. Every Monday in July. That's the schedule. So I hope you guys join us for that.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this.
You are, Amanda? You didn't seem excited when I proposed this.
I would not be excited to make myself go through all of this alone. But I'm very excited to get kind of your point of view on all of it.
Right. Okay. So with that, I think we're done. This episode is very long. I'm Jamil Payne.
I'm Amanda Comey.
And we are